Say howdy, boy. This is my sugar bear. He's a brown pussycat, like brown sugar. He got a white spot under there. Got big old pretty green eyes. He's my sugar bear. Yes, he is. He ain't worth a crap. He won't eat a rat. He won't do nothing but just harass all the girl cats. I think he's looking at himself. What's he doing, buddy? He's mesmerized. The pussycat's mesmerized. Anyway, did my sugar bear. You've seen him a few times. Good boy. Oh, that good boy. That was my sugar bear. Anyway, back to this disappointment stuff. It's what we do with the disappointment. It's the behaviors and the coping mechanisms that we find to use instead of doing stupidity. The 2-year-old thing, you don't get the toy, so what do? You lay on the floor and kick and scream while Mama walks off. No, not anymore. No, Mama buys the toy because she doesn't want you to be disappointed. Now, when I was growing up, had I done anything like that, what I would have got was what my mother called a hot ass. Just that simple. So, I guess I learned about disappointment sort of early. I think some of these young folks nowadays, and old folks, because remember, young folks become old folks. And if you don't have any disappointment, if you don't have any failures growing up, what in the world are you going to do when you truly have failure? When you truly have disappointment? Failure is something I seem to be good at. Good enough that, you get used to it. But the thing is, keep getting back up and going and trying something else and doing something with it. Now, failure leads to depression. Depression leads to eating stuff or not eating stuff or going into a shell, becoming a hurt. It does all that stuff. And there's no reason for it to happen because the way life operates is you move on to something else. And I hope I can tell enough story that you understand, buddy, I've had to move on to something else just about every time I turn around. Now, yesterday, the reason I haven't posted anything is because I'm having medical issues. It's not going away. And my doctor assured me yesterday that that's just the way it is. Surgery doesn't even do that well for me because my condition doesn't allow my body to do what it's supposed to. So the disappointment was I was trying to explain to her that since my thumb and fingers are being affected, I'm having trouble playing the violin and the piano. Well, her, without missing a beat, she said, well, you can listen to the music. You can listen to music. And that's when I realized nothing is getting done here. Nothing is going to get done here. And then she explained that the situation with connective tissue disorders are just not well understood. Well, after reading a very large ordeal from Mayo Clinic, yeah, tell me about it. But there should be something you can do because you just lose. You have disappointment. How does these disappointment situations not turn into just horrible, horrible depression? Well, they can. They have been there before. I guess the coping mechanism I learned was if it don't kill you, it makes you stronger. I had to take that and internalize it. And when I say internalize it, I mean I had to learn to live it. I had to learn to live it. I've had skeletal issues since I was a little kid. Now I'm old, and anything I do takes its toll on me, from driving to whatever. So things keep getting cut out. Had to give up the swimming, had to give up the canoeing, had to give up the hiking, had to give up the biking. Well, I know that doesn't seem like, well, you're just giving up one thing. But if you're not used to having to give up, giving up just one thing can send you into something that's just not good at all. The point I'm trying to make is your emotions won't kill you. If you're not used to disappointment, it's going to be hard to deal with disappointment later in life. So I guess I'm talking to people that maybe haven't had their children yet and need to realize if you constantly tell them they're geniuses, if you constantly tell them they're winners, if you constantly, everything they do is fantastic and everyone gets a reward, slide to mediocrity is not a slide. It's a dive bomb to mediocrity. And we've been doing that for a long time. And it does not allow the best of what a child is good at to come out to begin with. Not everybody's going to be good at sports. I was reasonably good at sports, but my body wouldn't let me. So I had to find something else. I worked at it. I injured myself consistently, trying to show that I was tough and I could beat this, whatever it was. They just call it loose jointed back when I was a kid. I didn't do anything about that. Now it's just biting me in the ass, really bad. But anyway, that pushed me into doing other things. Couldn't get my head out of a book. A book was a place where I could practice a type of depression, which was, I don't want to deal with anybody, so I'll just read. And buddy, I did that for years. My family worried about me because they couldn't get my head out of a book. They didn't understand I was bringing in knowledge so I would have a very broad understanding of my world. That's necessary. This focus on one specific thing is very dangerous. It's what Germany did back in the day. Everything was specialized, so you didn't have people that had a broad sense of understanding their reality. They just worked on this widget and that widget, and none of the two widgets, even if they fit together, never talked. So how can you have a broadly educated individual when they have no understanding of philosophical issues, historical issues? All they're worried about is the mechanics of the widget in front of them. And those things do get pretty intense. And I used to not understand why a liberal education, if you want to, I don't like using the term anymore, but a liberal education was important. I went in and I was allowed to just specialize in specifics. There just wasn't a whole lot of need for me to mess with the histories and the language stuff and such. I got an exemption on that, just to focus on science, mathematics, computing, and that kind of stuff. And I came out of college with not understanding much about the history of the world. I knew about the history of people that touched my background. I've talked to you about all kind of those people. But as far as actually being able to have a conversation over historical events and why our world is the way it is now, I was devoid. Then after I got out of school, got in the world a little bit, saw what was going on, I realized, buddy, I had better bone up on some history. I better learn something. So I got my learn on doing my liberal aspect of education, where I learned some philosophy, economics, history, governance, politics, psychology. I wanted to have a fairly broad perspective on the reality that I live in. So that's where I was, that's what I was trying to do. If you're that type of person, you're driven, and that gets broken, then what do? Well, a lot of people croak themselves. A lot of people climb into a bottle. A lot of people just jump off of life. And I did that a little bit for a while, sort of out of necessity. But I bounced back. And it got so bad at one time that the only thing I could come up with is put one foot in front of the other and walk. That was the best I could do. And if that's all you can do, then put one foot in the front of the other and walk. Life is full of disappointments. Quit focusing on the things that are just not important. It's just not important. Especially the things like mass media. It has its place. But I continually see reports and stats and see it myself amongst people that spend a lot of time in these social media circles. I won't go into that a whole lot, but if you're dealing with depression, if you're dealing with other issues, winding up in a ball in other people's opinions and emotional assets, it may not be the most healthy thing. So if you're going through a lot of disappointment, remember, think of somebody else. It's not about you. It's about everybody but you. Think of good stuff. Don't go watch a bunch of detective and murder shows. You know, if you're already having negative things, don't go add more negative things. And that seems to be a tendency of what we do. You're depressed, so let's get a little more depressed. And that goes for music too. Back in the day when I was depressed and dealing with medical issues back in my 20s, Pink Floyd was the music I listened to. And one of my favorite songs was Comfortably Numb, because I dealt with so much pain and such, physically and emotionally. That's where I wanted to be, just freaking numb. You know, I remember sitting in doctor's offices and just hearing that song go through my head. If you make it through your youth, you may have a chance. And for any of you that are having these horrible troubles in your 20s and your 30s, you have to put the emotion aside. Life requires work. It requires work on the inside of you. I'm not talking about getting out with your hands. I'm talking about the inside job. It requires lots of work. We're complicated creatures. We have a lot of good we can do. We're in a very precarious circumstance right now. We need our minds, and social media is just not where your mind is. If it is, it's not your mind, it's someone else's. And I keep trying to bring this out. You have to know yourself. Create your own realities, looking in the mirror. If you live your life that way, the truth will be much clearer. That's something I came up with years ago, and buddy, it has served me well. The axiom to that is create your own realities, looking in the Torah. If you live your life that way, the truth will be so much more. I know you've heard it before, but it's important that we understand that there are times when we just have to put away our own thoughts, our own mind, our own feelings, and operate on autopilot. Just push until you get through. And then you wake up and you're 40 and you're 45. And praise Yah, some of the issues with manic depression and such start subsiding, and just age in general has its own things that it does for us. Anyway, I'm going towards that 15-minute mark, and my pussycat is wanting something. And, he just want me to pet his old pussycat head. See that boy? Oh, that my Nuggets. He's the best looking thing I got going. He is. Pussycat wise, anyway. Yeah, my boy. You be good. And this is the other thing. This is a rescue kitty. I've got another rescue kitty outside fixing to drop a litter. You take care of things. You love things. Life is so precious. Anyway, this is Rob with the Jonah Project. I hope I can get out of this rut and get something on the air. Hallelujah.